Caroline Lucas, how important do you think the Patchwork Awards are?
I think the Patchwork Awards are incredibly important because they send a signal out to people who perhaps think that Westminster doesn't have very much to do with them, isn't interested in their concerns, doesn't represent them. It sends out a very clear message to say that that's wrong, that there are MPs here who will stand up for minorities, who will try to find ways of engaging with all kinds of groups who perhaps feel underrepresented here at Westminster. And so that's why I think Patchwork has done, a huge piece of work really by shining a spotlight on some really excellent work that goes on here in Parliament, often unseen. This is an opportunity to be able to show it, to celebrate it, and indeed to celebrate the communities that are part of it as well.
And in a sense, are the Patchwork Awards the latest symbol of how Britain is changing as a country?
I very much hope they are, and I believe they are, yes. I mean, if you look at some of the issues that people have raised as part of their nomination process for these awards, we're talking about everything from representing the trans community, LGBT groups, right through to representing, some of the ethnic minority groups that perhaps don't feel properly represented as well. So I think right across the board, there's a real effort that's going on to make sure that Parliament is more representative and that people can have more confidence that whatever their issues are, they are being represented here.
And are these awards, as you would see it, the first stage in a process? Because not every MP might be as engaged with ethnic and deprived communities as you are.
I think, yes, in a sense, it is a step in the process. And I think that the attention that the Patchwork Awards have got this year will, really put momentum behind those issues and remind MPs, those MPs perhaps that haven't had these issues quite as high as on their agenda as they should do, that these issues are important, that voters are at stake here. They are the ones who are also making key decisions on the future MPs as well. So, it's absolutely important to make sure that all MPs are doing their very best to reach out to communities that perhaps don't proactively come to an MP. They might not think of coming to an MP first off, which gives us, I think, more of a responsibility to find new ways of reaching them to make sure that they too feel included in our democratic process.
Now, extremism is, of course, a part of our society. Does the occasional extremist action make it more difficult for MPs like you to do your work with ethnic and deprived communities?
Well, I think the occasional extremist action makes it difficult for everybody, to be honest. I see it in my surgeries when people come and talk with me, and perhaps it's in the aftermath of some event. And we know what some elements of bits of the media are like and what the social media is like and so forth. And all too easily, it can appear as if one random act is somehow is made into a judgment on a whole community, and that is massively damaging. So I think, I do think that is something that everyone is very aware of here in Parliament. That is where I think we've really made some strides now, where people will absolutely make a distinction between an individual act of extremism, which absolutely has to be condemned, and any reflection on the wider communities.
And what more do you think the media in general, or some areas of the media, could do to actually make your life easier in terms of dealing on a regular weekly basis with the ethnic and deprived communities?
Well, I think first off, they need to remember that words are hugely powerful, and just how we label different communities and how a throwaway comment might have meant nothing to an interviewer or a commentator, but actually inadvertently, perhaps in some cases, seems to tar a whole community with a particular reputation. So to be much more careful in their choice of words, I think, to make sure that they listen to commentators from those communities, ethnic communities themselves. So, you have people within those communities shown to be distancing themselves, condemning elements of extremism, as indeed they do, because they know more than anybody just how damaging it is for lots of work that they've been doing for years and years in terms of building up good relations. And then, of course, there's always the power of the good example. All too often, we only reflect on some of the stories to do with ethnic communities when something's gone wrong. That's a shame, because there are some fantastic stories going on every day of the week of amazing work that are being done in these communities by individuals and groups. And so I think, having a proactive focus on some of that as well would go a long way to have a more balanced picture.
And what would be your hope for the part the Patchwork Awards play in all this as they develop over the years?
Well, I think they've got to become the kind of the Oscars of Parliament, haven't they? They've got to be something that MPs really want to compete in, to be rewarded in and celebrated in. I think this is the very beginning, and so we've got a bit of a way to go to get them well known. But I hope that once they are properly well known, you know, it will really be an area of competition and pride if you're lucky enough to win one.
And do you think that the ideal would be to get to a situation where the Patchwork Awards are unnecessary because there is such complete and total integration throughout communities in Britain as a whole that the Patchwork Awards somehow begin to seem irrelevant?
Well, I guess that's always the question, isn't it, when you're singling out a particular area of work that needs to be done, and in a way you look forward to the time when it's no longer necessary. Having said that, you know, we have awards for all kinds of things, don't we? And that doesn't necessarily always reflect the fact that it's to do with work still needing to be done. Sometimes it can just be, you know, a sheer celebration of good work. And so I hope to that extent maybe that Patchwork does continue long into the future, but becomes part of a whole range of different kinds of awards that MPs and others are happy to take part in.
But the Patchwork is setting the lead here.
Patchwork is definitely setting the lead here.
Caroline Lucas, thanks very much indeed and congratulations.
Thank you very much.